Have you tried diet after diet without finding long-term success? Well, believe it or not, it's not you. So many people think they know what they need to do to get healthy, but there's so much misinformation out there that many of us are sabotaging our health goals without even knowing it. Hi, I'm Carrie, a wife, mom, educator, and certified nutrition coach. After being frustrated by dieting and all the confusion out there about what actually works, I decided to figure it out. And what I discovered on my journey challenged everything I thought I knew about nutrition. And the solution is actually much simpler than you realize. So now, I'm on a mission to disrupt everything you think you know about nutrition too. Welcome to the Diet Disruptors Podcast. Well, hey there, Diet Disruptors. Carrie here, and welcome to another episode of Diet Disruptors Podcast. My whole goal here is to help educate you to be able to cut through all the confusion of all the things that are out there. And there was recently something in the news, in your social media feed, but also just like people talk to me about this all the time, even before this new study came out. So I want to bring it up. We're going to bring up the concept of fasting. This is controversial. It's like, there's some people that are so, I don't know, just convinced about fasting that it almost becomes like evangelical. And I want to talk about it. And so that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to cut through. I recently did an episode in our television show Food Freedom about this, and I thought this is going to be really good to do on the podcast because when I do my TV show, I co-host with celebrity nutritionist Mark McDonald. It's called Food Freedom. It's on brinks.tv, BRINX. If you haven't watched it, you got to go check it out. It's super fun. But we get like 3 segments. It's a half an hour show. We get 3 segments. We have like 7 minutes a segment. And it's like, it's fast.
And we usually have guests on. And the reason I love the podcast so much is because I get to sit back and talk and take my time to get to my point. Sometimes I'm not very concise with what I talk about. So when we did the episode on intermittent fasting, we really had to like rush through it. And it made me feel like, okay, I need to take some time to really talk about what the confusion is, what the controversy is, why I feel the way I feel about it. When is it a good idea? When is it not a good idea? All that good stuff. So, those of you that are just tuning in for the very first time, my name is Carrie Lapoli. I am a nutritionist and a behavior specialist. I am passionate and obsessed with helping women to understand the truth about their value, their bodies, helping them to understand how to live with what we call food freedom, disrupting everything that the diet industry and what they say we're supposed to be doing to be able to get healthy, strong, lean, but most importantly, helping women to really understand why they want what they say they want. So often we are chasing diet after diet after diet, trying to do all of these things to be able to weigh a certain amount. We talk to hundreds of women every month, my team and I, and it breaks our heart to hear and to see and to talk to so many women who they really very much believe if I could just weigh what I weighed in college, if I could just lose 20 pounds, if I could just fill in the blank, change my body in some way, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be confident. Then I'll feel more like myself. And as somebody that has gone through this journey and understands exactly where you are right now, also knowing what I felt when I got to that magic place where I thought all of my happiness would be waiting for me and it wasn't. I remember reaching my quote unquote goal weight. And truth be told, I became more obsessed and I certainly wasn't more confident. Any confidence that I exude was around kind of being proud of my body, but still not proud of me. And when you really think about it, it kills me to know where I was and what I was doing because it was like I felt like I didn't want people to look at me for so long. And then I felt like I wanted people to look at me. Both of those issues were coming from a lack of inside, feeling like I was never enough because I didn't look a certain way, and then feeling like, oh, look, I look a certain way. Now I'm enough. It's we're enough one way or the other. My whole passion is that when we are not healthy in our bodies and in our mindsets, we cannot actually do the things that we're supposed to be doing on this earth. And so you can't have one without the other. You can't have a healthy body and not have a healthy mind. And you can't have a healthy mind and not have a healthy body. The two just don't work when they are opposing forces. And so I'm very much around the fact that our value is not dictated by the number on the scale. And weight gain is a symptom of something else, symptom of health and hormones. And very often, when our mindsets are not in the right place about who we are, what our value is, how we handle our emotional turmoil, on what we are doing when we are stressed, and we turn to food, then we have a relationship with food that's problematic. If you know what I'm talking about, if you can relate to what I am saying, please put me in the comments if you're watching live. If you are listening on the podcast and can't comment because you're driving or whatever, you're good. I totally get it. It's totally fine. So I need people to understand where I'm coming from because I'm in, gosh, I train a lot of health pros. I talk to a lot of health pros. I talk to nutritionists, doctors, health coaches on a regular basis in my life in between podcasting and coaching women. And it's so hard to find the balance. We have this like, I don't know, body positivity, like kind of movement on one side that's like be you, you do you, eat whatever you want to eat, feel good about yourself, understand that if you are a larger person who continues to gain weight, that it's okay. Just love yourself through it. And then there's the diet mentality that tells us we have to look and be a certain way in order to have value. And both of them, just like anything, right? Anything on that pendulum that swings one way or the other is problematic because we have to be the healthiest version of ourselves. If there is a woman who has gained a considerable amount of weight and is struggling to lose it, to get healthy, um and they do blood work, right? And you have somebody that is, above the norm in terms of size, and their blood work comes back and everything is absolutely perfect. And they have energy and they're not sleeping, they don't have sleeping issues, they're not having menopausal or hormonal issues. They're just literally living in a larger body, but everything is telling us they are the epitome of health. Then what are we doing? Why would we wanna change that, right? If we do, we gotta figure out where that's coming from and why. The problem is most of us that are experiencing weight gain or that are larger than our ideal weight really is, we're not typically healthy. That's where my focus comes in. So, we don't wanna swing the pendulum on one way or the other. Now, the diet industry, and whether no matter what diet you've done, they're all based in deprivation. And hear me out here, okay? The diet industry has us believing that we have a certain amount of food, calories, or macronutrients that we are allowed in a day in order to be at our ideal weight. One of the problems is we keep talking about weight when we really should be talking about health, because weight gain, a healthy body will not hold on to fat it doesn't need. Weight gain is a symptom of health and hormones. So we have to either deal with our health or we have to deal with our hormones. Usually we have to deal with both. And the weight loss or the lack of weight gain is a byproduct of that. We have to stop chasing weight loss because we go down the rabbit hole of the diet industry, which forces us to believe, as we have our whole life, it's just about taking in less than we burn. It's about deprivation. It's about putting our body at a deficit. And I always say, since when does anything thrive at a deficit? Ever. Now, that's where fasting comes in. It's so confusing because, like, it makes sense when I say that, right? We are a refuel as you go machine. The core foundation that our body needs is blood sugar stabilization. That is what our body is always like, hey, that's what I need. I need to have my blood sugar stabilized. And how do we know that? What happens when you're really hungry? Like, super hungry. What do you crave? Crave carbs, right? You crave bread, you crave chips, whatever it is. It's not because you don't have willpower. It's because your blood sugar is super low and it's saying, hey, we need to have it balanced. Now, your body will work to balance its blood sugar on its own. And for many, many, many years, doctors, nutritionists, you name it, all thought, well, your body just balances blood sugar on its own. One of our coaches is a blood sugar specialist. She's been a blood sugar specialist well before she became a coach with disruptive nutrition. She worked with diabetics. She was taught and trained formally that you do not have to worry about blood sugar until you become a diabetic. What? The whole reason we become a diabetic is because our blood sugar is off. But that's how she had been trained. And when she started working with us, she was like, oh my gosh, this just makes so much sense. So if blood sugar is our body's core foundation and nothing we know of thrives in a deficit, then where does this whole thing come from when it comes to fasting being good for us? Fasting being important for us? Well, a new study just came out that talked about how people fasting were having elevated risk of heart disease. I have been saying this for years. And there's been a lot of controversy around the efficacy of that study. Well, I will tell you the efficacy of any diet nutritional study is problematic because it's people. And when we do all sorts of science on people, when it comes to nutrition, it's very hard to control what everybody eats. But even more than that, even if you could, you can't control what they did in the past. and what their insulin resistance is, where they are in terms of metabolic disease. Because a lot of the tests that we have, we know when we're like there, but it's really hard to tell when we're kind of in that gray zone, like how close to the problem or how close we are to actually having a problem. In addition, consistency over time. There are no studies that are longitudinal when it comes to nutrition and looking at over time, what are we doing? Because you're not controlling what people are eating for 20, 30, 40 years. So, new study came out about fasting, and here's what I'll say about fasting. There are three ways that reasons, ways, however you want to say it, that people fast. Now, the concept of fasting is that you are not eating during certain windows of time. And the theory, I'll keep it very, very simple. There's a few different thought processes around why we fast. One of them is around nutrient absorption, that when we're fasting, then we can absorb nutrients better, that we can actually kill off the weak cells. We put our body in some sort of stress, and we can kill off the weak cells that really need to die off so that we can actually bring in new, stronger cells. This is what I say about all the things that we hear in science around all of this stuff. There's truthiness to it. If you're watching me live or able to comment, put in the comment truthiness. There's always a little bit of truth in there, which makes you feel like, oh, well, this makes sense. And if we're on the dieting roller coaster and we don't have a good educational foundation about what our bodies really need, blood sugar stabilization, you're just going to keep going after this one and that one and that one and that one, and always believing you messed up. You weren't able to keep up with the diet. And that's why you gain the weight. Well, when it comes to fasting, here's the thing. People will fast for religious reasons. And I get it. I understand why they do that. I understand the purpose of it, and I understand the benefits of it when it comes to your own spiritual growth. And to be very honest with you, if that's what people want to do, I will support that and I will help them, because I know that that's not necessarily a way of life. It's not a diet. Now, the why always matters. I recently did a podcast on motive, right? What's our motive for doing things? And so the why really matters in terms of, are you doing it for religious reasons or are you doing it because you think you need to lose weight? So that's one piece of it. And like that, I'm never going to, like, everybody has to make their decisions around something like that. And I get it. But then there's two other reasons why people fast. One, for weight loss, and another because they believe that this is very, very healthy for them to do. We've heard about fasting for years, and we hear about fasting from some really highly notable health gurus out there. Dr. Mark Hyman talks about fasting, for example. But he also talks about blood sugar. And that's where all of this gets confusing, because I want you to think about fasting. So if you've ever been hungry, like I said, like hangry, and you were like, oh my gosh, I gotta eat chips and all that. That is because your blood sugar is really low and your body's craving. Cravings are your body's indication that your blood sugar is out of whack. And so to push past that feeling of hunger, for dieting people, it's like this badge of honor, right? But for people who are fasting for religious reasons, it's this whole other kind of connection with God and being able to kind of sacrifice in some ways. When it comes to health, the belief is really that you are kind of getting rid of these weaker cells, and your body has to kind of go into this stress mode, which is actually good for it. But the problem is this idea of, if our body's core language is around blood sugar stabilization and fasting is good for us, how does that equate? Because when we're fasting, our blood sugar dips really low, right? Well, when we talk about the study with fasting and the cardiovascular disease that went along with it, understand that fasting as a diet is so much of what we're talking about here. People do these windows of not eating and then have this desire, need, belief that during their feeding window, like we're animals, they can eat whatever it is that they want to eat. And I do know a lot of people that say, no, 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 I still stay healthy. Or there's other people I know that eat whatever heck they want to eat. Well, understand that your body's whole like need is to trust you. Your relationship with you and your body is just like any other relationship. It has to be built in trust. And trust comes with consistency over time, positive interactions consistently over time. So if you are doing fasting for a diet, for weight loss, then think about what you're putting your body through. I'm going through all this starving and hunger and battling through low blood sugar. And then I'm spiking it really high when I do eat. And I go through this roller coaster. That is massively problematic for your body because blood sugar stabilization, if we're eating and what we call PFC3, a protein, fat, and carb every 3 to 4 hours, and we're balancing our blood sugar. Yes, I said carbs. It's a whole nother episode. We'll talk about that later. But like, yes, we need protein, fat, and carb that can balance our blood sugar. When we are keeping our blood sugar at a stable level all throughout the day, and we know this is science, you could Google it, but you could go on PubMed, it's research after research after research about the importance of blood sugar stabilization. And what we know is that the impact of having a dysregulated blood sugar is not just weight gain, but that's one of them. Your cravings, your sleep, your energy, your menopausal symptoms, because it's all around homeostasis. When your body is like this with blood sugar, your body is in hormonal balance. When it's not in hormonal balance. Then we actually age faster when our blood sugar is dysregulated because every time we have a blood sugar spike, we actually do something called glycate. Glycating is like putting your bread in the toaster. And every time you glycate, think about your body going into a toaster and getting more and more toasted. Toasting is aging. And so, you know, those people that look like in the 60s and they're like, wow, they look real old, right? Or 40s, they're glycating faster. We're all glycating, we're all toasting, but we speed it along when we're on this blood sugar roller coaster. And then the thing that's really scary to me about glycation is that every time we glycate, we have all this glucose in our body. Our body can only store it in two places, our liver and our muscles. So anything that's above and beyond that, that's why we eat in small meals, because just enough to be able to fuel our muscle and our liver, and then it can burn off what it doesn't need, and then it takes what it needs, and it's just like back and forth, and it's just being fueled exactly what it needs when it needs it. It's a little more nuanced than that, of course, but you become intuitive with your body. But when you're spiking it and then you have these extra glucose running around, I'm going to make it very simple. It's sort of like it can turn into what actually ends up happening with all this glycation is that we actually have these little like lightning bolts, these little zaps that zap our cells. And they're called free radicals. That's what happens when we go on this blood sugar roller coaster. And these free radicals zap all of our cells, our weak cells, which is fine, but also our good, strong cells. And that causes oxidative stress in your body, which actually is the precursor to every single metabolic disease out there. High blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, even stroke and cancer can all be attributed to that. In addition, your menopausal symptoms are all related to blood sugar. It is so important. So now when we're talking about fasting and we have this window where our blood sugar is really low and then we eat and our blood sugar gets really high. If you've ever been on a roller coaster before and you've gone up real high, what's that roller coaster in Ohio? It's outside of Cleveland. It goes straight up. It literally goes straight up and then it just comes straight down, right? I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, and I don't even remember the name of the amusement park. Anyway, I digress. The higher you go up in a roller coaster, the faster the fall is, right? Uh-huh. You know, in a roller coaster that goes a little bit up, if it went up little by little and it came down by that same incline, it wouldn't be as fast. But when you go up straight up and then you go straight down, you go down fast. And that's what ends up happening. You are putting your body at such havoc And so the problem with fasting, and this is what this, I mean, when you're talking about heart disease, cardiovascular disease, no wonder, because you're on a blood sugar roller coaster. And that's what I said. When you glycate, it releases free radicals. Free radicals are what is causing a lot of those issues. That's a super, super, super simplistic version of it. But do you see why fasting isn't going to work? I always say it's a bougie way of restricting your calories because you can only eat so many calories during your feeding window. So you're like, okay, good. Well, let's talk about the other fasting way, what Dr. Mark Hyman talks about. Now, you need to send me research because I cannot find a single study that talks about fasting in menopausal women and how it helps with their hormones. Everything you read is around how you don't want to fast because blood sugar is directly connected to your hormonal balance. In fact, when I went through menopause at just 46 years old, mind you, my doctor said to me, "How are you not feeling any symptoms of this?" And I'm like, "Well, it's probably because of how I feel my body." And he's like, "Remind me what you teach women again." And I said, "I teach blood sugar stabilization." He's like, "Yes, I tell women all the time it's all about insulin resistance, but I have no idea how to teach them this." And I'm like, "Yeah, all they do is restrict calories, and it's actually going to make it even more problematic for women." He's like, "Yes, that's why I do what I do." So when people are fasting for quote unquote health, and this is stuff we couldn't get into in the show because we didn't have enough time, they can't do it very often, but they're doing it in a way that is very challenging to do. And the motive is very different. They're not doing it as a very healthy, active individual with all their blood work in. Well, let me say, the people that are doing it, let me say this, are very healthy, active people whose blood work is all right where it needs to be. And they're using it as a kind of a way of maintenance. They are using it as a way to be able to extract all those like weaker cells, and they see benefits in it, but this is how they do it. They, first of all, it's very hard to maintain a fast that also allows your blood sugar to not go crazy. So when they do eat, they have to be very limiting in what they're eating, how they're eating it, and the amount that they're eating. It's very strategic. It's very complicated, and it is very hard. And the problem is that kind of fasting is very different than the diet industry fasting that so many of you have tried. So that's where truthiness comes in, right? The truthiness of this like small corner of people that could benefit. They're all men and they have to be like really a certain type of health already to begin with. That little pocket has been translated over to the diet industry. And we're like, no, no, no. If we do this and we have this feeding window and we're going to do this and this, we're going to do the 12-8 or the 8, whatever. It's no way to live. And if you already have, if A, you're not already in a very healthy way, B, you are a female, and C, you have a disordered relationship with your body and food, and your why is really kind of you're struggling with, you shouldn't be fasting. I'm just going to say it that you should be focused on blood sugar stabilization. You guys, I've been living this lifestyle for well over 10 years. I've gone through menopause at 46 years old. And we very much believe the reason why I went through menopause at 46 years old is because of all of the massive amount of hormones that I had pumped through my body when I went through more than 5 years of infertility, as well as the fact that I had an eating disorder and literally did not eat for about a year. And so my body and its PTSD was just like, well, holy heck, we are all thrown off. But as somebody that on paper should really be struggling with her weight and her symptoms, and she's not, and she eats carbs every day, and she has supported thousands of women to be able to do the same, maybe I got something going on here, right? Maybe something makes sense. But here's the real way for you to determine, okay, should I be trying this fasting thing or not? First of all, if you're doing something for religious reasons, truly pure of heart for that, it doesn't happen very often, right? It's like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know all the people's everyone's culture is around all of that. So I'm not even going to get into that. Different reason why, right? And if you are that small pocket of a very healthy, tuned in man that really understands exactly how to do a fast without wreaking havoc on your blood sugar, okay. I don't even teach that. So if you're a man that wants to learn how to do that, don't come to me. Uh Everybody else, no. Just no. And here's the real way that you know not to do that. And no matter what diet you're trying, here's your little test, your little litmus test. Be like, should I do this? Okay. Question number one, you're going to ask of any nutritional approach. One, is it based in science designed for my body to thrive? If it requires your body to be a deficit, it's not designed for your body to thrive. If it requires your body to actually count things that you have to keep track of and do math, like how many macros I'm supposed to have for the day or calories for the day, that does not allow your brain and your mind and your heart to thrive. So, is it based in science? All diets are based in science. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're going to allow you to lose a little bit of weight at first when you first do it, when your metabolism is high. But then, because your metabolism slows down with every diet you do from that point forward is just going to be starting at a new low. So, every time you could be doing something that you were doing before and it was quote unquote working where you were losing weight and you're gaining weight or you're not losing weight, it's just because you keep starting at a new low. And eventually your body's like, no, we're not doing this anymore. I can't keep up with you. So it's going to keep storing fat and it's going to throw your metabolic health off, all in an effort to protect you. So, one, is it based in science designed for your body to thrive? Two, can you do it forever? Your body is that relationship that you need to continue to cultivate. And a good, strong relationship, the definition of it is that it is trusting, and trust comes with positive interactions consistently over time. If you are doing something that you know you cannot do for the rest of your life, then you should not be doing it because your body gets completely thrown off by all of these changes that you keep doing. Oh, we're trying this. Oh, we're trying that. We're trying that. It works in exercise. Confusing your muscles is good in exercise, not good in nutrition. 3, would you let your kids do what you're doing? If you wouldn't let your kids do what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it either because physiologically, we're pretty much the same. They have a higher metabolism than us, but we all rely on blood sugar stabilization. But 2, if you are teaching your kids exactly what they should be doing, and if you're modeling something opposite of that, first of all, they're going to learn from you. And secondly, why are you doing what you wouldn't let them do? And I am all about raising children to be able to change our family tree. I know that I am the way that I am is because the way that the things that I saw, heard, and believed growing up. And it's taken decades of undoing. And I'm still on the path to try to think differently. My girls at 17 and 19 years old right now, they already think differently than I did at that age. And I know it's because I got myself right first. I know my body. I know health and wellness. And when my whole goal as an educator is to be able to help you understand your body so that you can make decisions for the right reasons, but mostly so that you can also change your family tree. This becomes generational change, which is to me everything. So, those 3 questions are key regardless of what it is that you're doing. And the concept of fasting, we really have to take a huge pulse check as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's also just plain miserable, and we don't need to. But here's my favorite part about fasting: you're all doing it anyway. When this is why we have 6 spinning plates. We talk about this all the time: nutrition, exercise, hydration, managing our stress, supplementation, and sleep. Sleep is one of the most important things we do. If you're not getting high quality sleep, you will never, ever get healthy. You will never be able to release weight. You will never be able to have hormonal balance. Sleep is foundational. Why? Because that's when we fast, you guys. Our body's energy level is at a place where fasting is appropriate. And how do we know that? Because what do we call the first meal of the day? Break fast. Breakfast is our first meal of the day. That's breaking the fast. So, in all reality, that truthiness that you heard, I'd be like, yeah, that's good. I fast when I sleep. That is why we want to get good quality sleep because that is when our nutrients can absorb. Oh, and those weak cells, those like weak cells that need to die off, go do some sauna. Go do a cold plunge. I don't like cold plunge, so I don't do that, but I do sauna. I do some hot yoga. Amazing way to release those toxins and to get rid of those cells that are just hanging around and not doing anything for us. Does this help? Does this help you get why doesn't work? Why it should not be a part of your nutritional approach and how you can get those benefits anyway? Awesome. All right. If you have any questions, if you want to know any more, just put that down there in the comments. Either me or my team will get back to you. If you want to see if blood sugar really is a thing that you should be focusing on, I have a brand new interactive quiz that you can take to be able to kind of share with me. I say interactive because you're actually communicating with me. You can share your symptoms and see if blood sugar is likely at the root of what you're experiencing and then what your next steps can be to do something about it. So I'm excited. I love being able to share my heart with you all. Comment below if you need anything. Go get the quiz, disruptivenutrition.com/survey, and go take my interactive quiz so you can go see what's going on with you.